Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 5:06 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, the host of the Matt Walsh Show, heard each evening here on WMAL, a columnist for the Daily Wire, and the star of the new movie, Am I Racist? Matt Walsh will be with us. We'll chat with him about the film and how you too can see it. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. A big debate tomorrow night. We'll keep talking about that, and, of course, through the day tomorrow as well. And then, of course, after it happens, I can't wait to cover the fallout. Before we get there, though, I want to go to the phones. I've got Jeff from Herndon on line one. Jeff, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, good afternoon, Vince. Hey, thanks. Hey,
Yes,
I was
sir.
just telling Corey, first of all, I was like, you got to take it easy on yourself. You know, it's like white geese, swan. You know, what's the difference? You know, it's like you're relearning to read. You know, so I want you to take it easy on yourself.
Okay, I'll try. Yeah, I know. I whiffed early in the program. I was referring to white geese when I was thinking of swans. It was a very bizarre moment, but thank you for reminding everybody, Jeff.
Well, I knew what you were saying. Unfortunately, I'm getting a little older, so those moments come up more often than I care to count, man.
All right.
Hey,
cool.
I wanted to bring something up of your previous guest, Tom.
Yeah, Tom Bevan.
That was a good conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom Bevan. That was a good conversation. He had some great information to share. I appreciated that. But he did say something I had to take exception to. You know, it's like, you know, Trump is uniquely polarizing. And I think, you know, this is the kind of semantics that serves this propaganda campaign that we've been experiencing, you know, and I don't know if I'm sure it's unwitting, but it just goes with, you know, the left's, you know, verbiage and terminology that they want, because, you know, the Orange Man Bad propaganda campaign that started in 2016, we're still dealing with it today, and it was just quite unique. Trump has been defending, you know, normal American values and trying to reinstate those, you know, put the American people back into the position of sovereign where they belong, you know, and in doing so, he's fighting, you know, the military complex, the pharma industrial complex, the education industrial complex, the globalists, the Chinese, the jihadis.
Well, you're tapping into it.
The enemies are quite respectable.
So that last point is, I think, the point in which you're tapping into the essence of why Trump is so, quote, polarizing. So when people say Trump is polarizing, you get a guy like Tom Bevan saying that. He's not saying that. I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but when I hear something like that, what I usually think is it's the topic of Trump that polarizes people. People really fit themselves into a certain camp based on how they feel about the guy. It's not even really in any sense a political assessment of him. The media does such a good job of concealing his politics anyway, what he actually believes, his actual policy prescriptions. That there are definitely people out there who sort themselves out based on, do I like Trump? Do I not like Trump? In fact, if you go back to the 2020 election, you know, we hear all this chatter all the time about 81 million votes for Biden. And of course, anyone who hears that's like, well, that's poppycock. 81 million people in a country of 300-something million voted for Joe Biden. That's a scam. So let's put that aside and assess those votes for what they are. To the extent that these are real votes, to the extent that those tens of millions of votes are real in any way, those 81 million, it really came down to, do I like Trump? Do I not like Trump? Trump was the animating force in the 2020 election. It wasn't about Biden. You can put any other mannequin in there. That has nothing to do with it. It was a referendum on, do I like Trump? Don't I like Trump? And again, lots of shenanigans from the left in that election. Now, having said all that, I think when it comes down to it, when you actually stare closely at Trump, what he believes in, what he's for, you're right, Jeff. Not a polarizing guy at all. In fact, he represents unifying themes for the country. But the reason the media turns him into a demon is because of what you said at the end, which is all of the combined forces of the establishment who reject him and his voters for fear that he is going to loosen their grip on power. As a result, we get hysterical, over-the-top lies spoon-fed to the public on a daily basis designed to make him think, to make him appear awful. When, of course, the awful thing that he's doing is threatening the establishment power that exists in D.C. And that's it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, it's an interesting exercise just to think how many billions of dollars have been spent to make Orange Man bad, and just all the lies, the mountain of lies that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And a never-ending stream. Well, it's so encouraging now, of course, to watch. Americans are seeing it for what it is. It's actually shocking to see people who still kind of are on the other side. But, hey, I like that 68% figure. I hope if every one of them sent a letter to their congressman and said, and said, stop spending money on the art, stop spending money on CNN and all these other things. We might actually get the dollar vote actually working against that whole propaganda campaign.
Man, just say your prayers, Jeff. That's what I keep doing. That's every day. I'm just praying for the country.
No, you're right, man. Thanks, Vince.
Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate the call. All right, let me see here. I've got Chris calling in from Maryland, line 3. Hello, Chris. You're on the Vince Colonnese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking the call.
Yes, sir.
I had a couple things. First, James Earl Jones, Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of speeches in that movie that are just unbelievable.
What an amazing talent, though! Just the ability to open your mouth and then instantly captivate. Instantly, every word he uttered was like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The writing helped, but anyway, the other thing is, if I were in Trump's camp, I'd coach him up, get him a sign language expert, and teach him a couple of phrases like "she's lying," "wrong," "no truth there." So while Kamala's espousing the BS, Trump can be signing some level of response since his mic is turned off.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Melania knows American Sign Language. Doesn't she know, how many languages does she know? She knows quite a few.
9.
A lot.
9.
Is it 9? 9 languages? Yeah, so she could probably help President Trump out with that. So a couple of choice sign language hand signals. Now, Chris, I don't know about you, but I think I also will be doing various hand signals at my TV when Kamala's speaking tomorrow night. But we'll see.
For sure. Let's hope that.
We'll see.
Let's hope Kamala can use up her minute and a half. Joe was having a hard time doing that. So that gave Trump the opportunity to get some responses in that otherwise I don't think the moderators would have let him.
I know. This will be great, actually. I'm as a general matter, I'm for open mics. I think that people should be able to mix it up. I'm for more speech, not less, no censorship. But I do think insofar as the Biden people, which are part of Kamala's campaign now, they negotiated this stupid rule. It's blown up in their face because the whole goal was that she could interrupt Trump. I'm going to interrupt him, and I'm going to be the prosecutor. I'm going to cross-examine him. I'm going to fact-check him. Sure you will. And when she's done speaking and the microphone goes off, Trump's ability to just do improvisational comedy is unmatched in American politics. Just is he can fire off a quip. He can go after her. He can mock. He's like, "Did you hear what she just said?" And he'll just be able to go off without any interruption. It's going to be great. I think it'll be great. I'm very encouraged. I'm hopeful for tomorrow. Maybe I'm wrong. I was wrong once, but I promised myself never again, never be wrong again. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the call. Let us see here. Sam calling in from Alexandria, line 4. Hello, Sam. You're on the Vince Colonnese Show.
Thank you so much, Vince. Springboarding off what you just said and what the last gentleman said, I think one thing that the president can do is give her 15 seconds of time. Of course, he's going to use it, and basically say, well, let me tell you what she actually said as evidenced by the last 4 years. Because one of two things. Either she did not have the chutzpah to stand up to her boss and say, this is wrong because you're hurting the American people with this policy, or he was complacent and part of it. So it's one of two. And then he goes on to answer with, what his policy stance is on whatever that, particular issue is. And then
reminding people that she's the vice president of the United States is Trump's mission tomorrow. So in terms of the substance of the debate, his mission is to say, why are you talking about this like you haven't been in office for 3.5 years. You created this problem. And I've talked before about kind of the differences between various Republicans, Trump, J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, and their ability to deliver messages. And they're all totally different. They each have different skill sets. But those other two guys who I just referenced, they have these encyclopedic minds. They can roll through an indictment that has all sorts of dates and details and times and figures. That's not Trump's specialty. Trump has a way to simplify things, cut through them, and instantly kind of smell out the vulnerabilities of his opponents and navigate towards solutions. He can do that, and so long as he can keep reminding everyone tomorrow night, Sam, that she's the vice president of the United States. She owns this disaster. She is tethered to Joe Biden. All those voters who say they don't have a clear picture of who Kamala Harris is right now will walk away with a much clearer understanding that the misery that this country is being subjected to right now has Kamala Harris's fingerprints all over it. And so that is Trump's mission tomorrow.
Exactly. And the last point on it was because she's going to bring up, how could you use the term vermin because that's Nazi-ish. My response would be, do you recall the name Lincoln Riley? Do you recall the name so-and-so and so-and-so? And say, you probably don't. The people that you allowed in this country that did those atrocious crimes on our citizens that are occupying apartment buildings of people just trying to make a living that you allowed in, those are vermin. Those are who I'm speaking of. And apparently you support them because you have a problem with the use of that term to murderers and thugs and gang members.
I know, and you're right. Should that come up, the President Trump needs to be really clear on that because the media will lie about it. She will lie about it. And the fact that her microphone will be off and she won't be able to stop him from telling the truth on that subject is a good thing. Is a good thing. It'll be interesting to see it play out tomorrow night. Sam, thank you for that prediction. Let me take Mark in Virginia Beach now. Mark, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hi, Vince. I remember, I just watched it again. James Earl Jones was a bombardier and a B-52 that was on its way to bomb Russia. He was the bombardier, and the name of the movie was Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Love the Nuclear Bomb. It's a great movie, and he played a small part, but he played it very well.
Yeah, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Yeah, and in that movie, he was really young, wasn't he? He was very young. I mean, when you think of James Earl Jones, you think of him as like perpetually old, but he was a very young man when that movie was made.
Yeah, and then I want to see if President Trump will ask Kamala, how come her nor Biden called any of the 13 families that lost their Marine in Afghanistan?
Yeah, or sailor or soldier there among the dead as well. And you're right. And I have a suspicion that is going to come up tomorrow night, and that it will be President Trump who introduces it. We'll see. Unless they ask a question about Afghanistan, I guess it's possible, but I don't exactly have sky-high hopes for ABC here. We'll see. I have very low expectations for them, for sure. Mark, thank you very, very much. It is 5:20 now. All right, I got a call here. Tony calling in from Silver Spring now. Tony, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Yes, hi, Vince. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
I would have something I would do if I was Trump tomorrow in the debate. When they talk about immigration, he often brings up, that's criminals and people from insane asylums. And that's true. I'm not doubting that. But let's face it, that's not the majority of the people. The majority of people coming are saying, hey, we got this opportunity. It's wide open. Let's go. Wouldn't it be to his advantage just to address that matter on full merit? In other words, you want to come, but you're not supposed to do it this way, and certainly not in these numbers. And maybe a little less emphasis on the criminals and people in insane asylums, the whole thing. What do you think of that?
I don't know. I think that the worst elements of this are a really clear expression of why it shouldn't be happening. The parade of horribles that the Biden-Harris administration has opened up is evidence that we need to desperately get our border under control. So I wouldn't de-emphasize the rapes, the murders, the drugs, the the violent criminality, the towns overtaken. I wouldn't de-emphasize that at all, because I do think that by putting that all out there and emphasizing those details, it rallies people to your side to say, this can't stand. I mean, you're right on the fundamental point, which is, everyone who comes in by breaking the law is committing a crime. And you want to have a broad indictment against that because we deserve an orderly country with a functioning border. But I do think that it would be a mistake to de-emphasize all of the worst impacts of this because the American people deserve to know what happened, Tony.
I mean, that's true. Maybe de-emphasize isn't the word. Maybe just to make sure you include the merit of what's going on. They could be the nicest people in the world, but and I don't even blame them for coming if they have the opportunity. It's the fact that they're just, doors are wide open.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
No, that's true, and a lot of crimes are being committed as people come across. Obviously, the illegal crossing, but then the phony documents and the fraudulence and the forgeries and the human trafficking. It's a never-ending list of all sorts of awful crimes, and it's not being stopped. It's being enabled by the Biden-Harris administration. Tony, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. It's an excellent point, and the Washington Times has this excellent piece today on all of this and how the parole program in particular, which is the means by which so many people are coming into the country. It turns out an internal government assessment of that parole program found that it is so full of fraud. You have people selling sponsorships on social media to illegals to whom they have no connection. One person wrote that their sponsor to bring them into the country was Michelle Obama. And, of course, government officials knew that was a scam immediately. Michelle Obama would never pay for a foreigner to live here. Welcome back to the Vince Columnist Show. I've got a treat for you. Coming up on September 13th, a great movie is going to be in theaters. You should go see it. Here's a little bit of the trailer to Am I Racist? Take a listen.
Let's be clear what's happening in this country. It's Nazism. Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up in the 90s, I never thought much about race. Sure, you noticed, but never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me.
Being a white, straight, cisgender man, it's the top of the pile.
I'm on the top of the pile. That's me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying.
Yeah, what a fun trailer. The trailer is a hoot. I guarantee the movie is going to be really funny, too. Joining me now is the guy behind that film from the Daily Wire and also heard every night here on WMAL right after Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh. Matt, thank you for spending some time today.
Hey, great to talk to you.
This is, after What is a Woman, I was like, how does he top this? Am I Racist? It might do it. In terms of the movie theaters, I just mentioned that people can go see this on the 13th. Was What is a Woman in movie theaters, or was that just online? Refresh my memory.
Yeah, we never put that in theaters. That was on the Daily Wire platform. And so with this one, we decided, we wanted to kind of go bigger with this one and try to put it in a place where a wide cross-section of the country could see it.
Yeah.
And this is our Daily Wire's first theatrical release. So we'll see how it goes. All signs are positive so far. Was the success of What is a Woman appetizing to the movie theater industry? I'm not even really sure how you get a movie into theaters, but did they see that success and say, okay, this could work? Yeah, that certainly helps. I also think that the movie theaters will screen the film before they accept the movie. And I think also they just can see that it's an entertaining film and that there will be an audience for it. Really, the biggest obstacles with the theater was just that this movie is a documentary. It's an unorthodox documentary. We take a very different approach to it, but it is a documentary. And usually there's not a huge theatrical audience for documentaries. So that was kind of one of the obstacles going in. But the pre-sale tickets, the pre-sales have been really, really strong. And so they've expanded the number of screens we've gotten, and it's been going great so far. The trailer is fantastic. I am looking forward to seeing the movie. I'm sure that there will be all sorts of moments that I laugh at. But what I've noticed during your press tour, and I checked out some of the interviews you've done prior to talking to us, one of the things I've noticed in your assessment is it doesn't seem like it's a comedy to you.
Like even the trailer describes it as a comedy. I think the audience is probably going to laugh at this. But Matt Walsh, in terms of you just having this experience of putting together this movie, Am I Racist? Talking about all these people who are steeped in this left-wing modern-day racism, was it funny at all to you as you were doing this, or was it just all depressing?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing is that, well, I think the movie is really funny, and I've of course watched the movie back many times now, and I still get a good laugh out of it. But when you're actually making the movie, I mean, this is not a scripted comedy. So when you're making the movie, it means I'm in the room in real life with these people, whether I'm talking to somebody like Robin DiAngelo or I'm in one of these, anti-racist struggle sessions and brainwashing sessions. And being around that in real life, it's not exactly a barrel of laughs when you're in the room. It's a little bit, it's quite disturbing actually, certainly uncomfortable, awkward, but mainly just disturbing and kind of infuriating. So people always ask, like, how did you keep from laughing? And for me, it's not really keep from laughing. It's more, how do I keep from yelling at these people and telling them that they're full of crap and all of that.
Yes.
So that was more the temptation, but I had to hold myself back from doing that.
You had to resist debating them.
Exactly, 100%, for sure.
So Robin DiAngelo is one of the big reveals in the trailer. She is the author of a book called White Fragility, which became something of a Bible to, bitter, self-loathing white people, I think, especially during 2020. She's made a lot of money in this kind of race hustling business. When you sat down with her, a couple of things. One, I found out recently that you basically had to pay for the privilege, just like everything else she does. You had to pay her to actually sit down with you?
Yeah, we pay most of the anti-racist scholars and consultants that are in the film. We pay sometimes exorbitant fees, and we put that in the movie. We put their price tag on the screen when they appear for the first time, because that's part of the story. Like, we have no embarrassment about it.
Yeah.
Part of our point here is that this is a grift, and a lot of these people are in it for the money, at least in large part. So that's part of what we're trying to expose. And
when you sit down with someone like Robin DiAngelo and you have this conversation with her, obviously she's advancing a worldview that you totally disagree with. You are tempted to even debate her as you sit down with her. Do you get the sense that she'd be successful in any other realm in life? Is she an impressive person? Is she brilliant in any way, or were you let down in that department?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And the answer is no. I did not find her to be terribly impressive. In fact, I mean, honestly, I know you might say, well, look, of course I would say this, but honestly, all of these people that we talk to, just my impression, they appear to be like very mediocre people. These are not deep thinkers, and they're not terribly charismatic. It's not, sometimes you can meet someone who's kind of a bad person and has terrible ideas, but you can tell how they have found success in life because they're very charismatic and brilliant.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case here. I think that, yeah, they found a niche that, if not for that, I don't know what they would be doing with their time, but academia, provides that to people. It's like a jobs program for mediocre left-wing midwits.
Yeah, and it seems like the more outrageous you are and the more self-loathing you are in public, the more success you have. Like, you can't take a middle ground. You have to be really aggressively stupid and hateful. Yeah,
certainly. I mean, there's one person in the film, and like, I don't want to give away spoilers and stuff like that, but
sure.
We talked to one person in the film who was a PhD, and she's also one of these DEI experts. And you'll see in the movie, we have a brief clip of her in the movie of my exchange with her, and there's not a lot going on here. I mean, this is a PhD I'm talking to, and the whole time I'm talking to her, I just can't believe. Like, I didn't even go to college, and yet I'm talking to this person who's a PhD, and I feel like I have a much stronger base of knowledge than she does. But, that's what you get.
One of the things I remember from What is a Woman, and again, I don't want to give away too many spoilers from the movie or induce you to do that, but one of the things I remember is when you started asking too many critical questions of the people you were sitting down with, eventually they would turn on you. They would start questioning your motives and suggesting that you had some sort of moral failing for even asking these questions. Did you encounter that in this movie?
We didn't because, we did have, there's a scene in the movie where they figure out who I am and they call the cop, they kick me out and call the cops on me.
Right.
So we certainly encountered that kind of hostility. But we realized early on that with these people, if I expressed any skepticism whatsoever about what they're saying, they just clam up and we wouldn't get anything out of them. And they just wouldn't be honest about what they actually think. So we took a different approach in this film, and rather than being skeptical, I agree with everything they say. I just okay, I'm with you. I'm an open book. I'll agree with anything you tell me, and you guide me on the journey. You take me down the rabbit hole.
Yes.
And that's because that's what we want to show. We want to show the audience, well, this is where these ideas lead if you believe them. And you'll see in the movie where it takes you.
Right. I saw the one video that you shared publicly involves you sitting down with some sort of, I guess she's probably an anti-racist educator or something, a white lady. And you're talking about Disney princesses and that she's got this, basically she thinks it's sad that children are still drawn to white Disney princesses. And you raised what you refer to as the Moana problem. And I thought at that point that she might be onto you, but she wasn't. It was just kept on becoming more and more incoherent.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of, you see that's the first interview in the film, and you kind of see the approach that we take throughout the whole film in that interview, where, she says that she starts it by saying that she's disappointed in her 4-year-old daughter because she likes white princesses. And maybe if we were doing a different version of this film, I'd respond to that by saying, well, why would you be disappointed in that? That's ridiculous. But instead, we go the other way, and I kind of one-up her, and I say, well, my daughter is into Moana, and I'm worried that she is culturally appropriating. What do I do about that? And then, the person we're talking to kind of responds. We're kind of like taking each other down this rabbit hole of insanity, and that's kind of the whole movie in microcosm in that one little scene there.
Yeah, I understand. There's a scene in the film. Let me localize it here because you're speaking to a Washington D.C. audience now. There's a scene in the film where you come to Washington and you go to the Washington Monument and you begin surveying people about whether or not it should be changed from the George Washington Monument to instead the George Floyd Monument. What did you find when you did that?
Yeah, that was a moment of that I was a little surprised, honestly, because we had this idea that we knew we wanted to have a scene in the film where I do activism, because part of your anti-racist journey is to be an activist. And so we thought, what kind of activism can I engage in? And this is what we came up with. Well, maybe we could get people to sign a petition to change the George Washington Memorial to the George Floyd Memorial, or monument rather. I thought that this is so ridiculous that no one's going to sign this thing. Like, they're going to know that this is a joke.
Yes.
But almost every person we stopped signed it. We actually had trouble finding people who wouldn't sign it. And it was funny, but pretty depressing also.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of people feel like this. I'm appreciative when you can take something like this and make a mockery of it, because I think it gives people permission to judge it and to knock it down, which is really key. Because I realize that in some ways it feels like 2020 was the crescendo of this chaos, and it maybe has ebbed a bit since then. But, so much of corporate America, and as you mentioned, so much of academia, especially, so many politicians are still pretty beholden to these theories, aren't they, Matt Walsh?
Absolutely, especially in academia, corporate world. I think that they're almost entirely beholden to the theories. The only thing that really has changed in recent months even is that the label they put these ideas under, which was DEI, that label has taken on a very negative connotation with the American public, as well it should. And now, does that mean that they're going to stop promoting these ideas? Of course not. They're not going to go away. They just have to find a way to repackage it. And look, the left is very good at that. They're very good at coming up with new euphemisms and new packaging for the same ideas. And they always get, they come up with their new packaging and they get a lot of mileage out of it. And then people start to understand what's really going on, and then they got to repackage it again. And it's like this endless process.
Yes.
That repeats.
Yeah, no, we've seen them do it with woke, and then they dispensed with that. Now it's DEI. Now they're dispensing with that. So as they move, it's incumbent on the rest of us to point out that it's just a brand change, and don't let them escape with it. Because I can tell you, especially like I said, in our area, there are, I can't tell you how many human resources meetings people have where they're still subjected to, you may not feel like you're racist, but you are. And it's pervasive, Matt Walsh.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's on the left, this is their fundamental ideology that white people are the villains of history. And if you're a white person, then you're automatically inherently racist. They can't give up that without basically giving up their entire worldview, because it's all built on that foundation. So, so it continues, and that means we have to keep fighting it.
Amen. All right, Matt Walsh, thank you for your time today. Matt Walsh is in theaters with his movie Am I Racist, September 13th. You can get tickets right now at miracist.com. Matt, thanks so much, sir. Congratulations again.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Be well. What a world. What a world. Dick Cheney has endorsed Kamala Harris for president of the United States. And Kamala's super pumped about this. She was at a spice shop in Pittsburgh called Penzeys Spices. And it's a kind of a commie place. They very proudly hate Republicans. They feature it in their displays. They've got one or two in our area as well. And they hate Republicans. They love saying it. So Kamala Harris, who wants to appeal to the broad American middle, she goes and hangs out at the communist spice shop. And while she was there, a reporter asked her, "Hey, Dick Cheney just endorsed you. Any reaction?"
Actually, I'm honored to have their endorsement. And I think,
and Liz, of course.
I think that what they both, as leaders who are well respected, are making an important statement that
well respected by whom? What are you talking about? So are all the Trump people super up on Dick Cheney? They all pumped about Cheney? No. Okay, so I don't know. Not broadly respected there. Cheney's been a big Trump antagonist for years. Is the left super pro Cheney? Has that been the history with Democrats? That, oh yeah, Dick Cheney. Can't wait for that Cheney endorsement. Who's Cheney going to endorse this year?
It's okay, and if not important, to put country above party. And I'm honored to have their support, and I think it's an important statement right now. A lot of what I think is happening, and I was just talking with some folks here in Pittsburgh about it, is that people are exhausted about the division and the attempts to kind of divide us as Americans. And them stepping up to make this public statement, I think, is courageous, but also for people like the folks I was just talking with, it really reinforces for them that we love our country, and we have more in common than what separates us.
Stunning and brave that Dick Cheney has endorsed Kamala Harris. So goofy. There's over on MSNBC, there's a fella called Tim Miller. I think I've seen this guy. Wears a puka shell necklace all the time. Yeah, he was talking about how this is he supposed to be a Republican? Is that his history? I have no idea. Anyway, he's an MSNBC commentator. And he says, this is a really big deal. Do you know how big this is? It's huge.
Well, Nicole, I mean, in some ways, obviously, this is a shock. It's an earthquake. Dick Cheney, Darth Vader, voting for the Democrat should be a wake-up call to everybody. In other ways, it's not that much of a surprise because...
Oh, this guy was on Jeb Bush's 2016 campaign. Yeah. He worked as a communications director for Jeb. Please clap.
Of what we've seen from Liz Cheney and just the backbone from the Cheneys. I want to go back to Dick cut an ad for her in her primary that she lost to a MAGA Republican when she was sacrificed at the altar of Donald Trump's insurrection by the
So everything coming out of his mouth is just goofy nonsense.
Republican Party. And in that ad, he said, in our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual that was a greater threat to the Republic than Donald Trump. There's nothing more important that Liz will ever do than lead the effort to make sure Donald Trump is never again near the Oval Office, and she will succeed.
The convulsions of the establishment. How tight is that puka shell necklace? Is that a choker?
I mean, that's as straightforward as it gets. That is classic Dick Cheney. If love him or hate him, he always was clear-eyed about what he thought was the right approach. And in this case, Dick Cheney is looking at this and seeing Donald Trump as the greatest threat in the history of the Republic. I mean, that is not mincing words. So I agree with everything you said in the intro. I think this is huge news.
Just the years upon years upon years of Dick Cheney is Satan. Dick Cheney is evil incarnate. Dick Cheney is Darth Vader. How many Darth Vader references are we going to get in one day? James Earl Jones passed away today, and that's where the Darth Vader conversation should be. But, of course, the left now saying the guy that they considered the evil person, Dick Cheney, is now on their side, so now he's good. All is forgiven. That's very Orwellian of them, isn't it? As he growls out an endorsement for Kamala. Dick Cheney, who are you voting for? Okay. The convulsions of the establishment. And now today's guidance is act excited that Dick Cheney has endorsed our candidate. Yes, sir, or ma'am, or she, him, whatever it is today. Hey, prayers up for the great one, Mark Levin. He injured his leg this weekend. He shared on X. I'm praying for a very fast recovery for him. His program is up next here on WMAL.